July. It's been a very difficult month for us, but we've done great because obviously we're away in Sligo, away in Drogheda, we're away in Rovers Monday night, away in Bose. So we've had four away matches in throwing in the home game against UC last week. That's 5 competitive matches in 20 days, so it's been tough going. But look, at our form has been good. We against UC last week was difficult. I predicted it would be difficult, and it was. But at the same time, we came out with the 3 points, and Bose is a huge challenge again to us Friday night. They have their form this year. They've had a lot of draws. Their results against the top teams has been quite good actually. They've taken draws off all the top teams: Dundalk, Pats, Rovers, and I suppose their problem is that they've drawn too many matches, and they've a very good young side coming through. But it's a big test for us. But at the same time, we need to play very well up there, and I keep saying you're into the last 13 matches, and it's coming quick and fast. And after this week, we run into quite a number of home games, so it's important for us to stay in there.
They were one of the 3 teams to draw at home actually, in the 10 home league games.
Yeah, I suppose it was if you look at the couple of draws we had at home, particularly Bohemians and Sligo, both of those teams came down, they played well, but I think on the night both came down really the way the conditions turned in the second half, and they had the advantage with them. It was one of those games that we scored, they equalised, and probably for the last 10 minutes it looked like they were going to win the match. But I know a lot of the Bows players are very, very good side. Owen Harry, good manager. They're rebuilding. They fancy themselves. Owen thinks he's a young team coming through. That's really going to be up the table in the next couple of seasons. So he fancies them, and we know it's going to be a very, very difficult game. They went away and drew away to Dundalk, away to Pats, Rovers. They drew away to Rovers. So you can see obviously the big games they're up their game. They've drawn away to us. So it's important for us that like I keep saying every week, we just have to play well. If we don't, we're going to leave points behind us, and we can't afford to do that.
But every team seems to be doing that now, John, at the moment. Every game for Cork City is like a cup final. Even the EA Sports Cup the other night. The Rovers team were up for it, the fans were up for it. Yeah,
well, I suppose it's a situation that I think you can see in the Premier Division. There really is no team that's I suppose miles off any other team. Obviously, the top teams, Dundalk, Pats, Rovers, ourselves, we've opened the gap. But there's no game that you see anyone. There's been a couple of scorelines that maybe where the managers have been changed. But generally speaking, I go back to think of, you take Athlone, even in McCook's time, Dundalk got a 93rd minute penalty to win the match. And Dundalk, everyone was saying that Dundalk are unbeatable and they're this and that. But at that time, Athlone were after losing about 6 games in the bounce, and they were lucky that night to get a decision against them. So there's no such thing as an easy game. You look at UCD last week, they beat Sligo. Hopefully Sligo will progress tomorrow night. They give us a run up to the last game of the game. There's just no easy game, and I think people just I suppose that's why sport is so intriguing, because top teams underestimate weaker teams, and that's when they get caught. And that's the beauty of sport. And that's why there's so many shocks. And but for us, we're after being a very, very tough month, and hopefully on Friday night we can play well and come out of it to set us up for the month of August and predicting the number of home games coming through.
John, your next 4 games, Bowes away, you've got Dundalk at home, Pats at home, then a long trip to Derry. Is it fair to say the next 4 games will be the make and breaking of the season?
Well, I suppose, to be honest, I always said at the start that I think if we come out at the end of August and going into the last 7-8 matches, that if we can hang in there, I think anything is possible then. Obviously, if you come out after those matches, Rory, and you're 6 to 8, 10 points off the pace, you have to be realistic about this. For us, we have to hang in there and stay in there and see can we get into the running when the pressure is on, the crowds are going to be big, and anything can happen. That's the way I believe. But look, the good thing for ourselves is that if we can hang in there for the moment and get through and stay in contention over the next month, it means that at least you're probably guaranteeing then that you're qualified for Europe, which is the first achievement. And then if as long as you're not 8 to 10 points off the top, anything is possible then.
How are we looking on the injury front for Friday?
Unfortunately, Rob Lehan is out. Got injured the other night, which was a blow because Rob has really progressed. Since he's come into the team in the last couple of months, he's really stepped up the mark, and he looks, every time he comes on, he looks really good, and he's going to be a really fantastic player for us. So Johnny got 5 stitches, and we're hoping that he's a black eye, his eyes after closing a small bit, so we hope that we've another 2 days that he'll be okay. Garrod is probably not going to make it, and other than that, I think we more or less had everyone else to pick from, and Davron came through the other night, so he's back in contention. So I think what it showed the other night to me is that while I think in the Rovers match there wasn't much in the game, the sending offs were harsh. Obviously losing Gary for Friday night is a blow because he's been a regular in the team and he's a goal scorer, so that means we're going to have to make an adjustment there. But we hope Johnny will come through, and at least it'll give us more options.
John, I want to hear a bit like yourself with more than 450 appearances for a couple of clubs. Is it good to see people like that coming back and reinventing themselves into the management side of the game? They obviously have a lot to offer, right?
I think, to be fair, I'm not quite sure how many medals Owen Harry has, but I know he has a lot because he's with Shelburne with Bowes, and that's what a lot of the Dublin lads do. They move around the clubs, particularly the better guys, and they move around through their careers, and they tend to pick up a lot of medals. And Owen was probably the top fullback in Ireland for a long time. You know what I mean? And I suppose a credit to him that he's won so many league titles because he was such a good fullback, and he always looked after himself. And I suppose a natural progression for him being so successful would have been to go back in as manager. I suppose he is in a situation where, like in managing any league or club now, it is difficult. And I suppose probably managing Bowes on the pro license with me, I do know that it is a very pressurised job because Bowes are very demanding, and they have been very successful. They've gone through a transition period. Obviously, there's been a lot of financial implications at the club, and he's come through. But I do know from him that he really fancies this team this year. He thinks he's a tremendous team coming through. He thinks they have a lot about them, and he believes that they can hold the bunch of guys to next year. He thinks they're quite capable of challenging. And so, as I said, he was a top player, and he's obviously a very good coach. So and it's like everything else, whether he'd be given the time at Bowes that he probably needs over 3 or 4 years. It's hard to see it nowadays when you see people going so quickly, like how we got 6 managers out of 12 already moved this year. So 5, it just shows you the pressure that's there. And it's not the pressure, I think it's just it's probably getting to a stage where it's not making sense anymore. You know what I mean? Because you bring in a new manager, like some of the clubs are bringing in new managers at the moment, and they're in position. What are they going to do? You know what I mean? It's other than maybe try and get things ready for next season. You know what I mean? But it's hard to know. But there's definitely I suppose the support, the pressure from most of the big clubs now has become unreal, and you just have to be no different to ourselves. We're on the, I have no illusions about it. I don't think I can survive it being mid-table for a couple of seasons. That won't happen. I have to be at that end of the table. I've told the players, and I need players that can play at the top at the table, that can compete for the trophies, and that's what we have to be like.
There's 4 or 5 to come back in, obviously changes from Monday night.
Well, from Monday night, the good thing about it, I suppose, is that Colin and Lenny didn't play, or neither did Billy and Darren. So like the 4 of them will come in. Obviously, I had Liam and Mark on the bench. That I was hoping not to use them, but with the injury situation we had to. So so that's where, and some of the guys that have played for the last 3 or 4 weeks and played again on Monday night, they'll also play because that's the way it is. So the crucial thing for us is that we trained this morning, trained well. We're training again tomorrow morning. We know how big the game Friday night is. I'm hoping that maybe the UCD game last week might have been a bit of a kick to us to realise that, you know what I mean, that we don't get carried away, that every game is a massive performance you need to put in, and we need that, and we've got to the top of the table by putting in those performances. And I suppose the other big challenge to us at the moment is that everyone thinks Dundalk are going to win the title. Everyone thinks that Dundalk are home and dry. You know what I mean? People still don't give Cork any credit. you know, even though we're still there 20 games, we're still hanging in there, you know, people still don't see us as a realistic target. So it's up to us to keep proving that we are, and that's the challenge to us, and hopefully can. And as I keep saying, we just can't afford not to get a result on Friday night.
John, I know obviously you never like to lose a game, but is it better once it's not to have to worry about the EA Sports Cup now, and that you can focus on the league more?
Probably after Friday night, I tell you that. And I don't mean that. It's look at, as a manager, you have good habits and you don't like losing, but you have to be realistic at the same time and look at the panel. And what it's showing us is that we have strengthened our panel and we've increased it to a certain extent. But you know, we still have had Garrod Morrissey out for a few games. Now we're going to have Rob Leanne out. Garrod, who was playing every week. Rob, who was coming on nearly every week, okay, and they're out. What it's showing is that the big thing here is that our strength and depth is still tight.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you know, you look at Michael McSweeney, we signed him as an amateur, as cover, and he plays the other night. He had to travel to Drogheda 2 weeks ago because we had 18 players. That'll just tell you how tight it is. You know, Darren Murphy's gone for the season. You know, so it's we've been unlucky with some injuries, but at the same time, our strength and depth isn't as big as Dundalk's, Shamrock Rovers, as I showed the last day. And it's one of those ones that you never like to lose a match. Maybe in 3 or 4 weeks, it might prove that the fact that we're not in the semi-final might prove to be a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, and then again, in 3 or 4 weeks, we might have been happy to be in the semi-final. You know, it's a hard one to call. Yeah. I would say, at the minute, from my own point of view, is having a midweek match at the moment is putting strain on our team. And for me, I prefer just to have a match every Friday. Gives us enough time to recover, and I think it suits us better.
Would you hope to have Garrod back for the big ones coming up?
Well,
Dundalk, I was saying, 10 days time.
We're hoping that he'll come back to training next week, middle of the week. I'd have a better idea next week. It's still like he's still like he hasn't trained with us. No, so next week might come too soon for him. Yeah. You know, so we'd have a better idea probably certainly by Tuesday, Wednesday. You know.
Go on, keep performing every week and picking up 3 points every week. So I don't think the team don't feel under pressure. They don't get that vibe off any of the players. We're kind of relishing it, to be honest.
20 games in now, is the element of surprise that might have caught a few teams in the first series of fixtures? Do you think that's gone? They know you're a threat now.
Well, yeah, I suppose teams probably respect us a bit more now. But having said that, I still think the bigger teams will underestimate us. But I don't think we mind being in a position of being an underdog. I think we play well being in that position.
Ryan, personally, how happy have you been with your performances this season?
Yeah, I'm really happy with how it's going so far, especially because I didn't feature at all last year. I made 3 substitute appearances and it was very disappointing for me, so I probably set myself targets at the start of the season and I've reached them so far, so I'm happy.
We're hearing you linked with a number of big name clubs across Channel. How much attention do you pay to that, and does it affect you at all?
Well, yeah, I can't ignore it fully, but at the same time just stay focused on I'm a Cork City player and that's the end of it really. I think it would be a lot more difficult, say, if it was happening last season when Cork City were mid-table, but the fact that we're up near the top now and doing well, I can concentrate on that because that's the most important thing for me, and I don't think it would be really fair the team if I was thinking about other stuff, and I think it can affect your performances, and I don't want that to happen, so it's not a big distraction, to be honest.
So you strike me as being a fellow who wants to play every game, every minute of every game. So were you kind of disappointed the other night not to play? Any time you're either rested or you might pick up an injury. It's very frustrating for someone like you. Yeah, it's extremely
frustrating for especially injured players. I've experience of being injured for a long period of time, and I know how hard it is. And I think people who are actually playing at the time don't realise how hard it is for players who are injured. I was fairly tired after Friday, so I was glad to get a rest before the game when I found out, but then as the game was going on I would have liked to have been playing, especially when I went down to 10 men, there's lots of space and you want to win every game, especially against Shamrock Rovers, so I would have liked to have played, but the rest is good too.
And Brian, presumably you still see your future as a midfielder, do you?
Well, yeah, I do. I think I have a lot to learn as a right back, and I'm still happy playing there because I know I have so much to learn, and it's kind of a challenge, and I like that. And I think the same can be said for centre midfield. I'd like to play there, and I'd like to learn how to play there because I know I have so much to learn. So I don't mind either of them.
Yeah.
I'd like to play in centre midfield, but I'm happy enough at the moment playing right back.
And like, do you think playing a right back can help you if and when you do go back to midfield?
Yeah, I suppose. I think the more positions you play in on the pitch, like the better understanding you get of the game. But even at right back, I'm watching the centre midfielders when I'm playing, how they're receiving the ball and the little movements that they're making, because I think at right back you have a picture of the whole game,
Yeah.
whereas in centre midfield a lot of the time you have your back to the play. So I suppose it would help my game if I went back playing centre midfield. I'd have a better understanding.
Brian, there seems to be a great team spirit, and you all seem to be playing for each other. How important is that?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Like, I think we've scored a lot of late goals this season. I think that's shown we've good character in the team, and I think, like, compared to the other teams around us, I think the one kind of positive and one strength that we have is that we have good team spirit. Like a lot of the other clubs, they've like really good players. There's no doubt about that. But I think the question is, do they have the same team spirit as we do? I don't think they do.
Now, I know it was only the League Cup, but you're a side who aren't used to losing. How's that affected you in training this week?
Yeah, I don't think it's affected us too much because people understand like what's the priority, but at the same time you don't want to lose. I think people are very disappointed after the game, but it's back in training today. It's a new week, so everyone has moved on from it.
Bohemians Friday, how impressed with them have you been?
Yeah, like down in Turner's Cross, they're very good. They really put it up to us. It was a battle, and we know that it's going to be a huge game on Friday, and we're really looking forward to it.